Retromania Pro Wrestling Podcast Network is a Moonsault Media production and is intended for private use only. For more information, contact retromaniapodcast@gmail.com.
And then we'll, and I'm guessing, now I was going to ask you, like you like to do like the background music and stuff, like for the opening and stuff.
Yeah.
Are you going to like switch it up to like something a little more heavy, a little more rock, because we are doing ECW?
I definitely am going to have like, I think I'm going to do the same thing I did with Hulkamania, where I'm going to like remix the ECW theme.
Oh, that's awesome. I like that.
So, yeah.
I like that.
Just like make it our retro type like intro. Yeah.
Perfect, dude. I love it. I was just curious. I'll let you, you handle all that. I just figured. I just wanted to touch base just so I can kind of get a feel of what I'm gonna say and how I'm gonna say it, and then it kind of complements or matches the background music. So just
absolutely.
get my tone and my tenor and everything.
Extreme.
Well, I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah, I know. I'm just fucking.
But what's going on, everybody? This is season 2 of Marking Out the Days Extreme Watch-Alongs. We cover 1997 in ECW. That's right. Welcome, everyone, to Marking Out the Days Extreme Watch-Alongs. I'm one half of your hosting squad, Dave Rosenbluth, from Kicking Out at 2 here on the Retromania Pro Wrestling Podcast Network. And as always, by my side here for Marking Out the Days Season 2 Extreme Watch-Alongs, my good buddy, the content creator, the architect of the Retromania Pro Wrestling Podcast Network, Coby Nida. What's going on, bud?
Hey, Dave. Thank you. Man, I'm ready to get extreme. This is awesome. I mean,
Did you just say in our pre-production meeting that you weren't going to do that?
I lied. I'm sorry.
Kind of like Paul E did all those years in ECW when he told the guys that their checks were ready. Oh,
Doom! There, zingers already, folks. And if you're not familiar, Marking Out the Days, this is our second season. So the first season, you and I covered 1992 WCW Saturday Night versus WWF Superstars weekly from April all the way to December. But now, here we are, 25 years retrospectively covering 1997 ECW.
Yeah, actually, the entire, well, I would say the entire Retromania Pro Wrestling Podcast Network, but this show, as well as my show Kicking Out at 2, is going to be covering 1997 year in wrestling. So it's going to be pretty much watch-along based for these two shows. I'll be covering Raw and Nitro random episodes each week. Might take a break from 1997 here and there when, the anniversary affords it. And then this show here covering ECW from 1997. They're going to be this show will be 45-minute little watch-along bangers as we watch ECW Hardcore TV from 1997. A lot of things took place in 1997 in wrestling, but especially a big year for ECW as we march towards the barely legal pay-per-view, the very first pay-per-view in ECW's existence. A lot of bumps in the road as we got to that point. So I'm looking forward to talking about it. Me personally, it's the first time I've ever watched ECW Hardcore TV from 1997. This was kind of like my first exposure to them when they made their appearances on WWF programming. But now I'm going to get to watch the programming here on the Peacock, if you will. So this is going to be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to this.
Yeah, absolutely. I am too. And I think it's going to be interesting having the watch-along format because we're going to intro each episode very quickly, catch up with each other, and then get into it. And by watching it, we're going to discuss certain topics that roll off of our head and maybe stuff that we have listed and, news from that time in 1997. So this will be fun for everybody. So you don't necessarily have to watch along, but it is fun when you do watch along. But it's still an earful of content and great laughs and knowledge for you guys that love wrestling from the past.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be very informative. A lot we're going to cram into this episode and many more episodes to come. So sit back, relax. If you're an ECW fan from back in the day and you want to watch along with us and and relive some of your memories, that's great. If you've never watched it before, like myself, I've never watched these particular episodes before, then, you know, it's going to be a lot of fun too. So overall, this is going to be a really cool, I wouldn't say experiment, because I think we're going to continue doing this, hopefully. And yeah, let's get into it, man. Let's rock and roll.
Absolutely. Before we do, you can find this podcast and many others like Kicking Out at 2, Dave's show, in our archive over at Retromania Pro Wrestling Podcast Network by searching Retromania with a W on any podcasting platform that you listen to. Please like, rate, review, share, and subscribe if you dig this show. It helps us grow. We've gotten a lot of listens lately, and I really appreciate the love. And the holiday time just makes me feel warm inside, so it's a good feeling that we got this new project coming along. So Happy New Year. Happy New Year's, Dave. Wink.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very happy New Year's, yes. Hope your holiday was a good one. I know mine was.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Nothing bad happened.
No, not in the slightest bit whatsoever.
Please. Yeah, breaking the fourth wall, folks. We're recording this a bit early, but we're trying to get ahead. But yeah, happy holidays to everybody. I hope you enjoyed your holidays, and thank you for listening. This is like going on year 5 for the Retromania podcast in general, but going on year 3 for you and I, teaming up for the network.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
A lot of fun,
you know,
man.
We've been trying to find a good rhythm with, you know, different collaborations. We've done some, you know, watch-alongs, and the original Marking Out the Days format where you pretty much, you know, rambled on for 3.5 hours about every single wrestling episode that took place during that time period. Each result, each commercial break. My God, I don't know how I made through, but I did because I love it. And you know, with that being said, then we turned it over to, you know, the pandemic, of course, took place, and we're catching up with all of you, and now we're moving on to season 2 of Marking Out the Days, Extreme Watch-Alongs, and yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yes, indeed. So if you want to watch along with us, like Dave said, cue up your cock, get your cock ready, the peacock, that is. Or if you have the WWE Network, look for ECW Hardcore TV. That'll be in the ECW section. Season 5, Episode 1, January 2nd, 1997. And when you click on the episode, it'll start to play. You can hit pause and then skip back to the beginning and just hit pause again. And when we say, you know, when we count down from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, we say play. Once we say play, we'll be hitting play, so you can hit play too and watch along with us. It'll be fun. Dave, you got yours queued up?
My cock is locked and ready to unload.
Are you ready? Oh, great.
That's the different show.
Yeah, sorry. All right, let's get ready to do this. Dave, you want to do the honors?
Sure. When I say play, press play. So, without further ado, season 5, episode 1, ECW Hardcore TV from January the 2nd, 1997. In 3. This episode will go 46 minutes and 10 seconds. So without further ado, in 3, 2, 1, hit play.
Got a little bit of a black screen there, but then here's the recall from last week. Times Square. Jeez.
And the BWO.
Yeah.
Big Stevie Cool and the Blue Meanie.
Oh my goodness. And this was a complete ripoff of NWO at the time.
Which I thought was pretty... I didn't like it back then, but in hindsight, I thought it was pretty well done. It was funny, you know. They were kind of, you know, taking something that was very popular in the wrestling world and spoofing it and making it entertaining. So yeah, I back then I didn't enjoy it, but looking back on it now, I can appreciate it more.
Yeah, absolutely. They're outside with a gentleman and a mic, and they drop his amp. They're in Times Square. It is Blue Meanie and Stevie Richards, members of the BWO. Stevie Richards mocking and copying Kevin Nash, holding his fist up with one glove, and Blue Meanie has the painted on glasses and doing a lot of Razor Ramon moves. I think this is like a recall to kind of what AEW does today, like mocking the bigger name stars that have been around for a long time that they might have worked with or jobbed for or seen in the circuit, and they just realize that they're just a gimmick and making a lot of money, so they're gonna mock them.
This reminds me a lot of these ECW vignettes that you see that we're seeing right now. To the fans in 1997, it was a vignette on their TV show, but this reminds me a lot of the Being the Elite YouTube series.
Absolutely.
With the way that it's produced. And I know that with Paul Heyman and ECW's budget, they couldn't exactly, give us, 5-star production values, but they accentuated the positives and camouflaged the negatives, as I've heard so many times before, regarding the ECW brand. And this here is a perfect example of, how they've taken their very minimal production costs and made the most out of it. Yeah. Whereas in BTE, that's pretty much all done by one of the Young Bucks' wife. She kind of does it.
I think they all have a side hand in it. Brandon Cutler does a lot of the filming, and then Matt Jackson and Adam Page had a lot to do with editing for a while.
Okay, all right.
So everybody has a hand in it, which is fun, which is why it's so creative. But it is you gotta watch it to know what's going on. It's an inside joke, and much as ECW was, it's an underground feel. It's a niche. It's a clique.
You talking about BTE or just AEW in general?
BTE, AEW, and now I'm recalling it to ECW. There was a clique, There was like a movement or people that like were diehards for it, And that's how something thrives and gets through, much like ECW at this time.
It's funny that you mentioned that because you talked about the diehards and how they helped the movement grow. That eventually led ECW to getting on pay-per-view, as we see. Looks like here a clip from a prior event with
looks like the Gangsters and the Eliminators.
The Eliminators, yep. Saturn, Cronus, and New Jack and Mustafa.
Rest in peace to a few of those guys.
Yeah, Cronus and New Jack both no longer with us. And I believe at one point they were, towards the end of 97, they were the Gangster Eliminators because both Mustafa and Saturn had parted ways with the company. But as I was saying, the diehard movement and the support of ECW helped lead them to, getting looked at by pay-per-view companies and satellite companies to produce pay-per-view. And there's actually a story here I want to read briefly from the Wrestling Observer on January the 6th, 1997. After a week of negotiations, Paul Heyman is said to be cautiously optimistic the ECW will be able to work out a deal with Request TV to air their planned first-ever pay-per-view in April. The deal fell apart after Request TV president Hugh Pinero learned of the mass transit incident from back in November. Pinero said he initially thought ECW was just another wrestling promotion like the WWF and WCW, but after learning they were more violent, adult-oriented, and he had some concerns. As the new kid on the block, they have to demonstrate that they, ECW, are up to the same level of professionalism as WWF and WCW, Pinero said. My people thought they were like WWF and WCW, and when we found out differently, we started to do more research. I have no intention of banning them. Viewers' Choice has still decided against carrying the show because of the angle with Sandman's son, and they aren't budging on that. Losing Viewers' Choice probably cuts a good 30% of pure profit from the potential money the show would likely make. If they do good numbers on Request TV, then Viewers' Choice may be influenced to carry a second pay-per-view in the future, but it depends on how well the first one does. So, as we we're watching this here, 1997, even 4 months before this planned pay-per-view, it's still up in the air.
Yeah, I mean, look at how much blood we're seeing right now, just from the New Jack and Saturn, and the segment with the Eliminators and the Gangsters.
Yeah, and that's another thing too. As we're watching this here, you also have to remember, for those of you that are listening that are diehard ECW original fans, or for those of you that are brand new to watching it through Peacock, ECW was not on a prime time network. It was not shown prime time in a good spot like you would see a Nitro or a Raw or a SmackDown or even a Thunder. It was late at night on syndication.
Yeah.
Most times, at least here in the Northeast, you have it on MSG, the Madison Square Garden channel, or I believe I want to say Nesson Sports, or the original, or what became Nesson was
MSN.
the original sports channel in the Boston area.
Okay.
I think they carried ECW as well.
So
late at night I'm sorry?
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Late at night on a Friday or a Saturday evening. And so, we're talking 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes I would stay up to try and watch some of these, and they wouldn't even air scheduledly because they didn't have a scheduled rotation on some of these networks. It was pretty crazy.
Yeah, so I'm about to turn 10 this year. So I'm 9 years, not in 2021 or 2022, I'm sorry. In the year 1997, I'm 9 years old, and
Yep.
I'm obsessed with wrestling. And I'm looking for ECW any way I can because I see it in the magazines, in the Pro Wrestling Almanac, and like you said, I'm from Maryland, which is the state right below Pennsylvania, which Philadelphia is the city that hosts ECW mainly at the beginning,
Yeah.
around this time mainly. So they're a northeastern promotion, like you said, but it was so hard to find the channel or a TV guide that would list it. And it was like you said, 2 or 3 a.m. in the morning where it would come on. And of course, I'm 9 years old. I'm not staying up that late, or even allowed to at that point. So, it was very hard to catch any ECW at this point. So
very
ECW
hard.
was a rarity. And look at those belts. It's just stripped United States championships with, different emblems on them, and then no side plates at all.
No, those belts look like they got some miles on them.
Yeah.
There we see them right there up close as we get a close-up shot, a promo from Perry Saturn and John Cronus. I told you the John Cronus story when I met him years ago, right? I was scared.
Possibly. We can retell it for this version of Marking Out the Days as they do the wavy effect on the video.
The wavy. Oh my God! Look at the production qualities of this.
Yeah.
This is wild. If this took place, if someone aired their content like this in 2021, I'm telling you right now, the internet would be all over it.
Oh,
all
okay.
over it. The internet wrestling community would shit all over this.
Yeah.
Worked the indie show as a part of a ring crew in Meriden, Connecticut in the fall or the summer of 2002, maybe, I want to say. And John Cronus was a part of it. Jason Knight, who was the bodyguard of Just Incredible on ECW television, had a promotion in Connecticut called Assault Championship Wrestling, and he was the top babyface. Of course, if you're the promoter, got to be the top babyface. Got to be
Gotta book
the
him
main
strong.
guy. Yeah, got to be put over strong. So he brought in some ECW guys from now and then, Kid Cash, Balls Mahoney, Axel Rotten. So he brought in Cronus. And Cronus looked nothing like what we're seeing here on the television. Heavier set, just a shell of himself. And so they had this big 8-man tag hardcore match. It was a brawl all over this little VFW, blood everywhere. Plunder, baby. There was plunder everywhere. And so we're breaking down the ring at the end of the night, putting it in the ring truck, and Cronus comes outside with another guy, probably a buddy of his. I don't think he was involved in the business. And the dude says to me, he goes, I need a ride home. And me and my buddies are all looking at each other like, oh, this is John Cronus, ECW. So I said, where are you going? He was like, Philadelphia. And I said, and he grabbed one of my friends by the shoulder and I didn't say he jacked him up against the wall, but he's like, you gotta get me out of here. You gotta give me a ride home. I need a ride home. My ride's not here. I need a ride home. So I was the driver out of our friends of the ring crew. I had my parents' minivan at the time. So I couldn't explain to my parents that, hey, by the way, I'll be back in the morning. I got to drive 6 hours to Philadelphia. So I said to him, I go, grab your things and we'll meet you out here. So then I found one of the wrestlers who was in charge of the ring crew. I said, you guys have to distract John Cronus. He's pretty much trying to force us to go bring him home in Philadelphia. I got my parents' minivan. I can't do that. So he ended up distracting him for me, and we ended up grabbing that truck and grabbing my van and fucking flying out of there. I think we even missed a couple of pieces of the ring.
Oh my
we were
God.
trying to get out. and he was covered in blood, shit-faced. With all due respect, he's no longer with us. Intoxicated, dry blood. He had a gaff over his forehead. It's still in his ring gear. His match has long been over with.
Who give me a ride? Who give me a ride?
Yeah, it was. It scared us to death. We're like, one of my buddies was like, "Let's just do it." I'm like, "No, like my mother would kill me if I brought the ring, brought someone to Philadelphia with the van." Are you kidding me? I was pretty young at the time. I think I was like 17 or 18, but no, I was actually a little older than that. I think it was 19. But as we're watching here, Shane Douglas in a referee's uniform here.
Yeah, bring us up to speed. There is Brian Lee in the ring with Fit Finley. They had a match.
Fit Finley?
That's not Fit Finley. I'm fucking with you.
No, that's Louis Spicoli. I think so. Or that's Zip of the Body Donnas.
That's Zip.
Is it Zip or is that Louis? I think that's Louis.
Is that Louis? Hold on.
Yeah, that is Louis Spicoli. What was he doing? Was he doing a Body Donna's ripoff
This
gimmick?
is 1996. We got to get ourselves caught up to speed with some ECW here. So we'll eventually get caught up with the rhythm of the booking. Hopefully things don't change too much. I think Brian Lee is going to be going away this year. Yeah, it's Skip and Zip. It's Zip. Because I see Chris Candido right there and Shane Douglas. Brian Lee.
Candido's beating up Zip, so.
Yeah, I think he turns
sure
on him.
It's not Spicoli?
I don't know. We got to look this up now.
Yeah, now we're going to have to do some research. Sorry, folks.
Very good stuff, Dave.
Yeah, we're off to a roaring start here on our Extreme Watch Along. Joey Styles.
With that awesome background there, they must have used so much Sharpie on that.
Oh, I know. Little known fact here: Joey Styles used to film these segments of television in the basement of Paul Heyman's parents' house.
Yes, very cool.
While Paul Heyman's mother was ironing Paul Heyman's clothes.
DIY, do it yourself, man.
Hey, you know what? You got to give them credit for using all the resources they can with the finances that they had to make dare I say, a national impact on the wrestling world. I wouldn't go as far as say global, but they were the number 3 promotion, and at this time they were building momentum to eventually get on pay-per-view and getting some traction and getting noticed. And like I said, this is basically a glorified indie promotion with television, if you really want to think about it.
Yeah, I mean, they were on. It was like almost like the cable access. The last like, what's the word I'm looking for? The last little glimmer of territory days until the big purchase.
Yes.
And it was Louis Spicoli. It was Louis Spicoli.
That was Louis Spicoli?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, God,
this is pretty cool. I like this here.
The ECW Cam Fam footage.
Yeah. This is kind of cool.
It is Chris Candido and Rob Van Dam, who, got those airbrush cool outfits. At the time, he is one of my favorite wrestlers. I was insane about trying to find anything Rob Van Dam. What about you?
The first time I obviously noticed who Rob Van Dam was when I'd seen pictures of him in the magazines, like the Aftermags, but not until he made his appearance on WWF programming as a part of that ECW invasion in 1997, which I'm sure we'll cover at some point. I know that I'm kicking out at 2. I'm going to cover some of those episodes where they appeared on Raw, but I was fascinated by his style of in-ring work, and he was fun to watch. And then I got to see him in person at a ECW house show in 1999 in Connecticut. It was like one of the only shows they ever worked in Connecticut, the very few. And he wrestled Spike Dudley in the main event. Cool. And it was a lot of fun to watch him live. And I noticed him more and became a fan of him more and tried to follow RVD a little bit more. I didn't really get into his fandom super hard until he caught steam in WWF, WWE when he after the purchase of WCW when he came over. So, but yeah, this was early on where I caught notice of him, and I really enjoyed watching him.
Yeah, cool stuff. I did get to see him live eventually in 2003 at a house show, and it was an outdoor show at the Frederick Keys baseball arena, Harry Grove Stadium. And actually, speaking of Spike Dudley, he was there, and he said his grandfather was Harry Grove. So,
No kidding.
Yeah, interesting tie-in there. But Rob Van Dam faced off against Brock Lesnar. Great match.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was awesome, dude.
Nice.
Yeah, I was in heaven. 2003, that was.
Yeah, RVD. Just this past year, or I'm sorry, last year I should say, got into was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in front of nobody in the Thunderdome, which I thought was I watched that Hall of Fame and it was the shits, but RVD's speech was probably the one that felt the most organic out of them all. Whereas everyone else was reading off a teleprompter, he didn't sound like he was talking off a teleprompter. He sounded like it just came straight from the heart. So,
yeah.
But yeah, he's still keeping himself pretty busy. He's married and he does some appearances. And I think recently, within the last several months, he announced that he's been having some head issues regarding like concussions and stuff.
Oh wow!
From all the bumps he's taken. So, but every interview I've read and watched with him, he seems still coherent and up to speed and doesn't seem like he's missing a beat. So
no, not at all. It's really cool to see his last run in Impact Wrestling. He still had some good matches and move sets that are classic. Still to this day. You talk about 5 moves of doom, quote unquote, but here we see him doing like the rolling, jump. The Rolling Thunder. It's like classic stuff from Rob Van Dam that has been adapted by other people. Yep.
Oh yeah. I mean, RVD was definitely, as they say, one of a kind. His in-ring style was very unique, and I think that was what helped bring him to another level on the mainstream. Like after ECW had closed down, people knew who he was, but it was his in-ring style that really got him over. People say like, oh, his laid-back personality and the airbrush tights, but I feel like he's one of the very few guys where he can get over with his in-ring moveset than a personality, because everybody knows that in today's wrestling, you have to have some kind of personality to get over. But RVD, I think, is one of those exceptions. Yeah. People will watch him regardless because they enjoy watching what he does in the ring. They don't give a shit how he talks or how he presents himself. As long as he's exciting to watch in the ring, that's all that matters.
Yeah, absolutely. And that frog splash, that is awesome. Look like that, leap right there that he just took. High flying skills, awesome stuff. And speaking of, you were talking about the airbrush suit, and I did too. I mean, you can't go without saying that with RVD. But I was recently watching 2002, the debut of WWE Confidential. Do you remember that show?
Okay. Yes, I do. I used to watch that regularly.
So it's the very first episode, and RVD is on there talking with the guy who airbrushes his suits, and they go through the process, and he does like a little suit right there. It's pretty cool, but that guy has become synonymous with a lot of wrestlers.
I think he did Ryback stuff too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he's done a lot of other people's. But yeah, he became a name after that. But I saw the face that of the artist, and that show was interesting for the time.
Yeah, it was kind of like a shoot style format where they kind of like took a peek behind the curtain that broke the fourth wall, I guess as you'd like to say.
Mm-hmm. You can clearly tell that they were building for Shawn Michaels' return. Vince McMahon was like, "Would I want him back? Oh, I'd love him back on TV."
Yeah.
And then there was like they went to Trish Stratus's house, and she kept teasing her hot tub in her bedroom. Very sexual, highly sexualized at this time.
Oh yeah.
In this period, even now in 1997, in ECW was synonymous for that. They started it. Ooh, as we see a big chair spot and ref bump with the spinning back kick from RVD, which is classic. But yeah,
Even the ref bumps back then were kind of stupid.
Yeah, and it made no sense because you could cheat, but it was like, why have the ref down then? You know?
Yeah. There's
So
no rules.
If you had no rules, why have the ref down?
Yeah, why have a ref?
Right.
You know, at this point.
Well, you just
and look at it. And Douglas shows up. He just handed Candido the chain as if, you know, he was trying to hide it. Candido hides the chain in his tights, but there's no rules. Oh, there we see Louis Spicoli decked out in a referee's shirt. Is he going to make the count? Well, what the heck happened there? Did he hurt himself on the way into the ring? Did he slide in? Hit his head? Because I don't remember.
What the hell just happened?
Oh, he played possum with Candido.
Oh,
all right. That was kind of weird.
It makes
Spicoli
sense when
driver.
you're explaining it, but if you can't do it right, ooh, very good.
There we go. 1, 2, 3, and RVD wins over Chris Candido.
Yeah, you know, that's the thing. Like, and New Japan got to a level of that too, where Red Shoes and some of the referees allow like chair usage and cheating, and it's just like, well, what's the point of, you know, those things are for a reason, and I don't want to get Jim Cornette about it, but you know. It does make sense when you're trying to psychologically build your program or wrestling, for example, you know, your show. Like, you can't do all this shit. Like AEW, they allow so much shit, but then all of a sudden you'll have a DQ and it's like, wait, what about all the shit that just happened? You know?
Yeah, the continuity's not there.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah, you gotta have rules. I know people hate hearing that, especially the new generation.
Jesus, did you see that?
Wow.
That chair shot.
Hit him right in the face. Right in the eyes. Yeah.
But you know what, though? At the same time, you could make an argument that the lack of continuity and the spontaneous nature of the ECW programming was what made it so popular.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
I mean, if it wasn't for... Let's think about this. If it wasn't for this style of programming, you may not see other wrestling promotions going in that direction. Like you said, AEW with, you know, not really conforming to rules. People have taken a lot of places have taken a page out of ECW's book and tried to implement it into their programming just for ha-has. As we see, looks like a video package here, or clips of the
feud between
Taz and Sabu.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, things evolve. I'm just saying, you know, there was a reason for those things, but excess is everything now. So.
Oh yeah. While we got to pause in the action here, I wanted to continue with some stories here.
We're about 24 minutes and 15 seconds in. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that's a good call, actually. Just, you know, remind people where we're at in case, you know, you're lost or whatever, your internet's acting up. Excuse me. So, at the Wrestling Observer reported this week in 1997 that ECW is having to make some compromises in order to get requests to air the pay-per-view. Request is concerned about any scandals like the mass transit incident or a repeat of the famous fire incident, and they want ECW to put safeguards in place to make sure nothing else like that happens. Blood will be allowed as long as they don't overdo it, and if they air a warning at the beginning of the show. No stabbing motions with sharp objects will be allowed. For example, no one will be allowed to do an Abdullah the Butcher gimmick and stab someone with a fork.
Right.
Crest also wants paperwork on all the participants on the show to make sure they're of legal age. And if Heyman has any last-minute surprise participants on the show, request has to be notified in advance. They also want a medical team on hand, which ECW already does anyway. So, once again, another uphill battle to get ECW's pay-per-view to air.
Yeah, and seemingly this mass transit incident did happen recently, so it's still big talk, you know?
It's fresh, yeah. It's fresh in the wrestling community, and... you know, I can understand why. I mean, 25 years ago, when I heard about it, you know, on the internet, reading about it, I didn't really grasp how serious it was until years later when I saw the footage and saw the people commenting on the ECW documentaries, and I was like, holy cow. I was like, that was just way too far. Like, ECW was, extreme, you could say, but speaking of extreme, why the fuck is Joel Gertner not wearing a shirt?
I always hated that. I mean, but it fit the slimy character.
I guess so, yeah. I guess so. But yeah, it's like I said, 4 months out, and just another hill for them to climb to get to be on pay-per-view. Another story broke that ECW possibly getting their pay-per-view canceled, with many hardcore fans claiming the blame on Wade Keller of the Pro Wrestling Torch.
Wow.
Keller interviewed Pinero asking about the pay-per-view and his thoughts on the mass transit video, which Keller believed Pinero had already seen because Paul Heyman had said that they sent the tape to Pinero. Turned out Pinero had never heard about it and learned of the incident from Keller when he investigated the issue that eventually led to them canceling the pay-per-view. In the end, Meltzer says Wade Keller isn't responsible, and the blame for almost losing their pay-per-view rests on ECW alone. They've let the company oftentimes get out of control and have ignored warning signs and let these problems go unchecked for far too long, and in the end, it finally came back to bite them. For a long time, ECW has been a powder keg, ready to blow, and it could have ended a lot worse. So,
Wow.
Yeah, now we got infighting amongst the internet wrestling dirt sheet writers as to who's to blame.
Jesus. Interesting
Funny how
stuff.
Meltzer's reporting that Keller was the one to
That
blame.
goes
but
to
then
show
says he
what the
wasn't.
fuck he's been about for years. For 25 years, Dave Meltzer just shits on whoever else reports, and has the insight or the inside stuff. Man.
Yeah, he makes himself look like the hero at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure he's
So.
given a lot of stars to their matches around this time too.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, we have Joey Styles sitting here talking. It's a lot of dialogue from Joey Styles. He's really your main host and tossing to everybody. We see Shane Douglas here with Francine.
Yes. Shane Douglas, obviously known for his previous runs as a dynamic dude and a dean, but
Around
I don't know,
this
many-
time, I was a fan.
he piqued my curiosity because he had a little bit more of a seriousness to his character. But as the years have gone on and I've watched older stuff with Shane Douglas, there really wasn't anything special to write home about outside of that ECW bubble.
Yeah, doesn't
I mean,
hold
he
up.
Was, when he went to WCW, I thought
There's a
he'll-
chance.
He's a fresh face and he's got a little bit of notoriety from ECW. But when he came to, or when he was there, he was just like everybody else. There was nothing special about him. So,
Yeah.
and no disrespect, he's talented. I'm not saying he isn't, but I don't know, just wasn't it for me.
Yeah, I can see that. I was intrigued. I was a fan, and I didn't get too much ECW. So the stuff that I did see of him, I was like, "Ooh, he's good,"
Yeah.
And he did put on some good matches in ECW.
No, I'm not saying he didn't, but I mean, outside of ECW, like he peaked here.
Yeah, the franchise turned into a shitty rundown place.
Yeah, like he peaked in ECW, and when he made it to WCW, it didn't, he wasn't the same. But I think he was also in an environment where he was surrounded by more talented people, and so therefore his wrestling ability and his ability to talk in ECW had him stand out because not everybody had the wrestling ability that he did. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. There we see Two Cold Scorpio, Chris Jericho, Pitbull. A lot of names at this time. A lot of crossover too, because guys are integrating into WCW and WWF back and forth. The contracts are almost like a year to 2 years, so it's pretty quick. Sometimes even shorter with the agreements for WCW. Like famously Stone Cold Steve Austin You know, he worked with ECW for a brief period of time.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, he was in there for a cup of coffee, but you know what little time he had with them got him noticed, and we saw the origins of the Stone Cold character.
Yeah, absolutely. As we see Francine taking down her skirt to show off the franchise panties and a little bit of the booty.
And who do we got there on the ring apron? Is that the other Pitbull on the outside?
Yes.
Gary Wolf?
Yep.
Okay. And this was the angle where was this the start of the angle where Douglas broke one of their necks or something?
Yeah, Wolf had been paralyzed, I believe.
Okay.
Or, broke the neck, and he was in one of those halos, and Shane Douglas had messed with it. With it, grabbed him by it and threw him down. It was pretty violent. I think that was last year or briefly before this, maybe? Or we might be leading to it.
I think we're leading. I think this is leading to it because he Douglas and your Pitbull number 2, the bald one, were involved in a match at Barely Legal. And if I'm not mistaken, I think this is the spot where they put Francine through the table. I could be spoiling it, or it could just be making a mountain out of it. Yes, Heatwave 96. I think this is. Yeah, I think this is when they put Francine through the table.
Wow. Yeah, this is a big moment. Violence against women. She's going through a table.
Yeah, this is definitely not 2022 friendly, that's for sure.
No. I never got into or had that much exposure to the Pitbulls, so I never really followed them or knew too much about them as far as to give them credit, whether they were good or not.
Yeah, I mean, all right around this time period, like I said, here we go, boom, through the table.
Wow.
Fans are going crazy.
She took a hell of a bump,
she
Francine,
did.
And I'm sure she took a hell of a bump in the other way too.
It's interesting how all these fans are going nuts that they put this woman through a table, but I bet you about
it's 100%.
85% of them in the building have never even had sex before. So,
well, there's a couple women actually there. I don't think they were cheering. Maybe they were. Oh,
yeah.
We get 2 referees in here because reasons.
Oh, took a piece of the table, broke it over his head. We're gonna get the cover. 1, 2. Ooh, kick out. Of course. See, this is the era of everyone kicking out of each other's finishes and the heavy, the false finishes.
Absolutely.
That's always been around. People just notice it more in today's wrestling.
Brass knucks
hiding it from the ref, even though there's no rules, still kicks out.
Wow.
And this is what ECW detractors don't particularly care for is you use all this plunder and all these gimmicks to try and take a guy out, kicks out of them all, but then is he going to kick out of this one? Yeah, kicks out of them all, but then it takes a schoolboy to finish the guy.
Yeah, sounds like AEW.
I'm sorry?
Sounds like AEW.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And sometimes they can pull it off, but yeah, it's like you use every fucking thing in the book, and then what do you do next?
I know, right?
Slow it down.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. Belly to belly. This will probably be the finish right here, I bet. 1, 2, 3. Yep, you hit him with brass knuckles, a chain. You broke a piece of a table over his head, but the belly to belly, that did it, right?
Yep.
That sealed it.
Makes sense to me.
Give me a fucking break. My God.
We're shitting all over the first episode here for the new Marking Out the Days season.
I know. Season 2, we're off to a rip-roaring start.
We're almost, we are at 35 minutes and 40 seconds.
Yes, we are. We most certainly are. here's an interesting ECW tidbit. Former ECW wrestler 911 debuted in WCW this week under the name Tombstone. Apparently, according to Dave Meltzer, the name is a rib aimed at Paul Heyman because when Heyman first broke into the business as a manager, he managed a guy named Tombstone. But I think that's a little bit of a stretch, me personally.
I can see it being like a call to Undertaker, Mean Mark Calloway.
I could see that too, but I don't know.
Interesting stuff there. All these reports from back in the day are going to be interesting to hear, retrospectively.
Here's something you might like. Okay, this would be kind of funny. This is not ECW related, but apparently in this particular week's Wrestling Observer newsletter, someone wrote in a top 10 Dave Letterman type list on 10 reasons why Sid Vicious, Sid Justice, Psycho Sid shouldn't be the WWF champion. Number 10, while they might have the same skills, at least Bob Backlund can talk.
Oh, he can talk all right. I can talk real low because next door my wife is there, but I got a little kid next to me. And remember our rib on Bob Backlund, that's a callback to Marking Out Today.
His construction business.
Yeah. Okay, continue on. I'm ruining it. Go ahead.
Number 9. Raising his fist in the air is going to confuse the audience into thinking he's part of the Nation of Domination. Number 8. Poor Bret Hart is going to have to be able to work like Manami Toyota to carry him to a dud.
Oh my God. Last time I drove a Toyota, I didn't trust it. And it backfired on me. It screwed me over.
Well, before we continue with this top 10 list, I think this is what we're talking about here, the angle where Douglas kind of yanks Gary Wolf after he broke his neck.
Yeah, so a lot of these ECW hardcore TV shows are recaps, essentially.
Yeah, which
I don't have a problem with.
No, I don't have a problem with it either, but I'm just curious their reason behind it. Are they trying to...
Well, some episodes...
Some of the other matches on these shows so bad they had to like copy and paste and clip and edit stuff, or...
I think they were a touring company, so they wanted to get as much of the storylines in as they could in the hot cities that they would perform in, or the hot nights that they would have these angles going on. So some episodes would be like Monday Night Raw, where it would be a catching up episode, and then introducing like backstage segments. Go on with the list. I'm interested in this list, actually.
Which we're kind of seeing here right now with this whole, you see the wrestlers come out from the locker room.
Yeah.
You see Paul Heyman there, Todd Gordon, Joey Styles, other wrestlers, doing the whole breaking the fourth wall deal. But number 7 on this top 10 list as to why Sid shouldn't be the champion no longer has a squeegee to clean his belt with.
Wow.
Number 6, Brian Pillman is liable to shoot him. Number 5, Arkansas already has one idiot on top.
Oh my God.
Number 4, Jim Hellwig is at least more reliable to show up.
Holy shit. These are really good.
Number 3, Value Jet will take you higher than his choke slam. Number 2, this is great. This should be number 1, but this is number 2. Number 2, might shoot if an opponent calls a leg scissor spot.
Oh my God.
And number 1, karate fighters have a better work rate.
Jesus. That is really, really good.
Yeah.
Some zingers. Man, then we get more backstage footage here on ECW TV with this situation with Gary Wolf.
It looks like Joel Gertner's now involved.
Yeah, he tried to be snide and get on the ring announcing the mic, and I guess who was that? Who's the... I'm blanking on the guy's name. Todd
Gordon?
Yeah, Todd Gordon.
Well, there's Paul Heyman.
Yeah, there you go.
It looks like we see the Dudleys in there, Balls Mahoney. It's a mixture of like heels and baby faces.
Well, he's trying to rib Joel Gertner is trying to fucking make a joke out of the situation, so they're like, get the fuck out of here. So yeah, everybody's he's getting some heat for sure. Wow. So yeah, at this time, 1997, let's build everybody up with what's going on in the rest of the wrestling world. WWF is gearing up for Royal Rumble. Right? This is a big
Yep.
change. This is a big moment for Stone Cold Steve Austin, too. This is a big moment for a lot of people. Shawn Michaels, too. This is... Sorry, this is interesting with the girl in the ring. I don't remember this at all. It's
Sandman's wife,
Oh, it's Sandman's wife
Lori Follington.
looking very strung out, and
Yep.
I mean that in every way possible. With Louis Spicolli, not Louis Spicolli, shit, Mikey Whipwreck going against Raven.
Yeah, Raven back in the wrestling world as a part of the NWA commentary team, which I kind of happy to see Raven's involved in wrestling because I think he was very, very underrated in his contributions. This character really took him to another level, and his run in WCW following this wasn't anything to write home about. He had some good moments, but nothing too great. Like, he could have been a big deal. And then, of course, WWF, he was just everybody. He was just like everybody else. He was nothing special. So Vince didn't even know they hired him until he saw him in the locker room one day.
Wow.
That's the story I've heard.
Wow.
But Raven part of the NWA commentary team, which I think is pretty cool because he's a good talker.
That's really cool. Yeah, getting a wrestling match here at the end of the show. So at least some wrestling going on, not some backstory, but we see some BWO people in the crowd. Yep, it's actually BWO.
Oh, no kidding. Yeah. She definitely does look strung out. Holy shit.
And I'm sure
My
that's
goodness.
for the character, right? Like,
Oh, yeah. No, there's no way she was doing drugs with the guys in the back. I mean,
nah. So WWF gearing up for that big moment for Shawn Michaels. And WCW, what's going on there?
they are building towards the sold-out pay-per-view, which is the NWO only pay-per-view. A great concept in theory, but the execution of it is pretty poor. Actually, later this month, I will be doing a blind date diary review of that pay-per-view because I've never watched it from start to finish. I watched one match or two matches on that show years ago, but I've never watched it from beginning to end. So I'm actually going to torture myself and watch it, and then give you guys my recap, my blind date diary of my very first time watching NWO Sold Out from January of 1997. That's just in a few weeks. I'm kicking out of two, so look forward to putting that one out there for you guys. But yeah, they're well on their way to hyping that. The WWF was headed to San Antonio in the Alamo Dome for the Royal Rumble, so there was a lot going on to start 1997 as we see Raven making quick work of Mikey Whipwreck, and now we see the Sandman making an appearance.
Yeah, speaking of that event, the Sold Out, I mean, can't go without saying it had Masahiro Chono defeating Chris Jericho in the opening match. And to think of those guys now. Then you had Eddie Guerrero and Syxx in a ladder match for the U.S. Heavyweight Championship.
That was one of the matches I've watched from that event.
Yeah, big stuff coming up for those companies, so that's what's going on there. Sandman's wife hitting him. I'm not sure the storyline. They always tried to involve a spouse in ECW.
I believe the storyline here between these two was that Sandman, being the man that he is, his wife and kid had enough of his drunken debauchery, if you will, and they were brainwashed and poisoned by Raven to kind of follow him and be his part of his group, his flock or whatever. I don't even think there was a flock at the time. And it just got very personal. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this was after the angle where they crucified Sandman with the cross.
Yeah.
The famous spot where Kurt Angle was at that show, and he told them to, if you put my likeness on that TV, I'll sue. I want no part of that. And they ended up not airing the spot because it was so controversial. Even the fans in attendance were pretty pissed about it. And those Philadelphia fans are rabid, so.
Yeah, but some of them are Catholic, too.
And it looks like we're closing out this episode of ECW Television Hardcore TV for the very first time here on Season 2 of Marking Out the Days Extreme Watch-Alongs. Next week, we will watch the January 7th, 1997 episode where they'll be talking about... We'll be discussing the Raven-Sandman rivalry, as well as Taz. And, looks like Killer Kowalski.
Yeah, if you want to scare yourself, watch Killer Kowalski for the first appearance.
Oh my God!
Looking like a corpse. Jesus. That's going to be interesting to see where the storyline goes for 1997, leading up to this first pay-per-view for this company. And it'll be interesting watching these because I don't recall, watching these chronologically. I've maybe caught a couple episodes here and there in 1997, but I'm looking forward to this for the year of 2022, retrospectively going back 25 years and getting extreme with you.
97 was a big year. I mean, people talk about 96, and a lot of things took place. You had the birth of Austin 316. You had the Hulk Hogan heel turn with the NWO. Some big moments took place in wrestling, but 1997, it just continues to build. And I think 97 on all aspects between, WWF and ECW and WCW, they just kind of turned the corner and really pushed wrestling into the mainstream. And we'll be covering all that and then some on not only this show, but as well as my show Kicking Out at 2 on the Retromania Pro Wrestling Podcast Network.
Yes, thank you so much. And bear with us because Dave is eventually going to get the studio back and we'll be off the phone. So we'll be crisp and clear on both ends. We're still giving you the content, so don't fucking complain this holiday season.
Please. Don't, otherwise you're going to get more than just coal in your stock.
Enjoy, everybody. Happy holidays again. Happy New Year. Dave, Happy New Year and to more podcasting with you this year for the Extreme Watch-Alongs.
Yes, look forward to it. Thank you, my friend, and we'll see you all next week.
Bye-bye.